Hello, hello, and welcome to Digital Marketing This Week. It is episode 35. This is a recap of Traffic and Conversion 2015, which is where I was last week. So we didn't have a DMTW, but I figured, hey, you know what? We'll take advantage. I'll be out there learning all sorts of new stuff, take a bunch of notes, and then share it with you. So let's go ahead and get started with the show. Of course, if you have any questions, if you're joining us live, you've got the chat group. Otherwise, you can go to the questions form, which we'll show you in just a second. Of course, this is all brought to you by Seriously Simple Marketing over at seriouslysimplemarketing.com. My name is Chris Mercer, all about analytics and optimization. I do content development for the blog over at Seriously Simple Marketing. And of course, I'm the host of Digital Marketing This Week, and just call me Mercer. Okay, so this week's focus topic is a recap again of Traffic and Conversion 2015, which is a big giant live event that happens in San Diego. I actually have confirmation that it will be in San Diego next year as well at the same hotel. So for those who are wondering, and I believe it will also be in February. So the second week in February is what they currently have scheduled. As far as I know. So if you wanted to plan on your calendars, that's where it is. Now, brief note before we continue. Again, if you're joining us live, you already have access to the chat room. We do record this in front of a live studio audience, so to speak. So make sure that you join us for that. It's free to join. We send out notifications to everybody. Just go to seriouslysimplemarketing.com. You can sign up there. Again, it's completely free, and then you'll get a notification as to when we're recording DMTW, and you can join us live and ask questions. And then what will happen is after this sort of public show that we're doing here, we disconnect everything, and that's the part that'll go on the blog. And of course, then we'll have a little private Q&A session with everybody, and you can chat about the topic or of course, just anything relating to digital marketing in general. Your goal for today is to get, of course, just one idea, act on that one idea, and then repeat the process. Now, I'm going to keep this fairly high level. There will be some specific things that you can take action on, but again, more than anything, it was to give you an idea of what was covered at TNC and a little of the details of each of the sessions, at least that I attended. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into this. Again, why should you care? Because today we're going to do the general recap, but I'm going to show you some traffic tips, some copywriting tips that I picked up, and I'm sure a few more things. Without further ado, the moment you've been waiting for, Traffic and Conversion 2015, the recap. All right, so let's go ahead and dive in. First, I want to start with day zero. Now, this is something, you know, I will say it's completely selfish, but it's because I'm part of the Internet Marketing Party team. We put on this event, and we did this the day before Traffic and Conversion. So Traffic and Conversion started on a Tuesday, and this is something that we threw on Monday. So we had the Internet Marketing Party, which is exactly what it sounds like. And for those of you who are not familiar with this, just look it up on Facebook. You'll see a ton of photos there, and everybody that attends. But it is a rocking event. We had about actually, we set records this year, so a little over 600 people that we had, and we basically take a club downtown in San Diego, just rent out that club for the night, and we invite everybody to it. It is a paid event. It's like 30 bucks though, 30, 40 bucks at the door. So pretty cheap to attend, and everybody goes, which is nice because we've got gurus that go, all the sort of internet marketing gurus and celebrities, and everybody goes there, just kind of like one big family reunion. And because we have a speaker there, it's really great for beginners as well. Our speaker on that night was Mike Filsaime. So shared a bunch of stuff for entrepreneurs and mindset, which was pretty cool. And it's just a really good chance to meet everybody. So Internet Marketing Party was day zero for us. It was a late night, but it was an incredible event and awesome. So just wanted to kind of put that in there because I've got a special place for it in my heart. Now, day one, the official day one of Traffic and Conversion was, of course, on Tuesday. And one of the first things they covered was the 4 types of traffic. So I thought it was interesting to kind of think about that. Now, I've always heard in terms of funnels, right? You've got funnels and how people go through and think about their funnels. But one thing that was covered was, again, types of traffic. So thinking about this in terms of a funnel. So you've got viral traffic, you've got traffic that is for discovery of your brand, you've got traffic that is for the consideration of your brand, and then you've got customers, right in the middle kind of that funnel. So viral traffic, that's something that you can do, something they used to call newsjacking back in the day. Like if somebody would mention, like if Oprah would mention something, well, let's use a real life example. So 50 Shades of Grey is going on right now. We got the big movie and the book, and everybody's talking about 50 Shades of Grey. So you could create 50 Shades of something, right, and relate it to the 50 Shades of Grey thing, or here's the 50 Shades of Grey version of X, whatever your product is, somehow tying into that. And it's called newsjacking, where essentially you can get some viral traffic. So they may not be the ideal customer, but it's eyeballs, right? And within that group of suspects, so kind of we refer to them as suspects, right? They're not necessarily prospects. We don't know for a fact that they're interested, but they are suspects, right? It's possible that people within this group are interested, and that's what the viral traffic is for. So you're not going to convert a lot of it, at least to customer, right? But it's easier to get if you think about that viral loop. So creating stuff that lots of people are going to share, that again, you're not trying to target your customer, you're trying to target eyeballs, and your customers are within that group somewhere, right? That's kind of what the viral traffic is. Now, discovery is traffic that would be intended to discover your particular blog or information, right? So that would be sending them to a blog post, something like that. So maybe they come to the viral traffic where, it's the 50 Shades of Grey video that everyone's kind of looking at or whatever, and then you click on that and you're coming to now the blog where you've got some discovery, right? So now, oh, I see what this is, and let me see what else they have, right? That's discovery, where they're understanding your brand. Consideration is the opt-in, it is the purchase, right? So that's the point where they're purchasing. And then of course there's customer, where you would then retarget them back. So that's sort of the four main stages that were covered. And again, I never thought about it in terms of a funnel, so that was kind of an interesting thought. Now there were a couple of tools that they have. I have both of them listed here. So we've got semrush.com and buzzsumo.com. There were a few others mentioned, but these were the main ones. And these were to help you get that viral traffic, because that was the question people were having. Like, okay, so yeah, I want to do viral traffic, but where do I find the topics? How do I know what's popular right now? And things like SEMrush and BuzzSumo can tell you what's trending. So, and then you can just sort of relate your topic to that and then help with that viral traffic. So that's kind of where it all began. So again, SEMrush and buzzsumo.com. The other big trend for day one was about retargeting. And, I kind of figured it was going to be about that because they have the invisible funnel, and that's sort of Ryan's new book. And that really comes down to retargeting, right? They use retargeting a lot. If you're on Digital Marketer's blog, if you take a look at that, there's retargeting. That's what they talk about all the time. So I knew that this was going to be part of it. One thing that was interesting was how they're generating traffic to their offers. Is what they're doing is they're actually doing paid traffic to blog posts, right? And this is something, if you haven't considered, it's worth trying. So paid traffic to blog posts. And when you come to the blog post, there's a retargeting pixel. So it might be let's say, for example, a Facebook retargeting pixel. So, and I'll break this out. So let's say we start with Google AdWords, and you advertise your blog post to people on Google AdWords, right? That's all it is. Pure content. Google loves you because you're just giving out pure content, but you retarget those. There's retargeting pixels on those pages. So then when they go to Facebook, they're seeing your ad that's relating to the topic, to the blog post they were just on. So in our example, right, we do this Seriously Simple Analytics course for Google Analytics training. So we could do a blog post, and we do lots of blog posts about analytics. So we could send them to a blog post about analytics, and then we can retarget them back on Facebook that says, hey, listen, want to learn more about Google Analytics? You've got seriouslysimpleanalytics.com, and that can go to a sales page. And so you're targeting targeted traffic that is probably interested in your offer based on the fact that they were even on that page to begin with. So I thought that was a pretty cool idea. So again, retargeting traffic using the pixels, and you're paying for that initial traffic to go to a blog post. You're not trying to convert it right away. You're trying to get the pixel placed. And what they talked about was that great sort of pixel land rush. Like everyone's going to try to get their pixels. And this is kind of like list building, but virtually in the cloud. And we've talked about this before on previous DMTW episodes. That's what retargeting really allows you to do, is you can build up a list, quote unquote, right? A virtual list of hundreds and thousands of people, millions of people, if you've got the budget, that are all retargeted, right? And so then you can target ads to that group of people, and that's what retargeting helps you with. So this whole concept was do that, paid for your paid traffic to the blog, and then it's going to come back and it's going to retarget them back on Facebook. So they've got those pixels placed. So again, thought that was interesting and would pass it along to you. The other thing that they talked about in that section was cost per pixel. Is a new term they came up with called CPP, right? So that's how they measure everything in-house. When I say they, I mean the digital marketer team, the guys at Traffic and Conversion, Ryan Dice and his team that put all of this on. So they talk in terms of cost per pixel. So how much did it cost us to get a pixel placed, right? How much and basically when they measure that, it's when you go into Facebook, it's how many people viewed that page, right? So for those who are familiar with that sort of CPM model, like cost per thousand, there's cost per click. So, and cost per pixel is kind of the same thing as cost per click. So if they click on the page, ideally they're landing on that page, and then that pixel's firing. So that's kind of how they look at it. So whether it's cost per click or cost per pixel, it's essentially the same thing as long as you've got your pages retargeted. So that was CPP, and you'll probably be hearing more about that term just because they'll be talking about it more on Digital Marketers End. Now the breakout sessions, so these were like sort of general keynotes first, and so on day one, and then they have these little breakout sections. Now the breakout sessions are multiple tracks, and they all happen at the same time, and it is impossible to get them all because they all happen at the same time, right? So there's 3 different ones, all happening, right? So you sort of pick the topic that you're most interested in. And in my case, I went to the fill in the blank sales letters by a gentleman named Perry Belcher. Now, if you do not know Perry, he is a unique guy. So I would follow him. He works over with the team over at with Ryan Dice, and Ryan Dice and him are partners, along with a gentleman named Roland Frazier. But Perry Belcher is a really good guy to follow. So he's got this Twitter. So I put up his Twitter screen. It's twitter.com/Perry Belcher, and follow him because on there's a template for this fill in the blank sales letter. And for those who are joining live, I'm going to show that to you in just a second, but there's the bit.ly link as well. So it's and you'll see this again. I'm not going to say it out loud, but if you go to twitter.com/Perry Belcher, you will find it in his stream. It's right there. It's like 2 or 3 down. And where that would actually go is this little letter right here. Now, for those who are kind of like, whoa, look at that title. Perry's, like I said, he's an interesting guy. He's a fun guy to hang out with, but he pushes the limits, right? Like he's always doing that. So he basically made up this sales letter. It was like, hey, here's how to get paid to smoke pot. He said it was his favorite headline ever. And so he made up this sales letter and built this into a template that, again, you can get through that bit.ly link that he has on his Twitter feed. And it goes through here and sort of gives you like, here's how you would write a sales letter, and here are the different points of the sales letter, and here's what you want to make sure you reveal in these different points. And it's kind of a nice little template. So you could literally take this off his Twitter feed, and this is what he did, one step at a time through the actual breakout session. So it was definitely useful. And again, twitter.com/Perry Belcher. You follow him and you can get that same link as well. Now, the other breakout session I went to, because I really focused on copywriting a little bit, because so much conversions happens in the copy. And that's why I felt, okay, let's just really kind of hone in this a little bit and learn as much as we can. The other breakout session was Hollywood's 3-act story formula. And this was by one of their vendors, a guy that runs a company called ScriptDoll. His name is Ben Atkins. But the 3-act story formula was basically him saying, listen, as a copywriter, like you start looking at all these Hollywood plays and acts and or plays and movies and TV shows. They all sort of follow the same sort of path. And you may have heard of the hero's journey before. If not, you want to Google that. The hero's journey sort of takes the hero through these different phases of the story. And the 3-act formula is similar to that. Okay, a little simpler to follow because there's just 3 pieces. But basically, he's saying, you need to establish a villain, you need to escalate the situation, and you need to exit, right, with the final battle. So here's the breakdown of how that essentially went. So establishing the villain is you're really just discussing the problem. So in a Hollywood story, it'd be introducing this villain, right, or this power that the villain now has. It's establishing what the problem is, or what the challenge is, or will be. Right? You've got escalating the hero situation. And this is the part where the hero is there, and now they're confronted with this villain who's either more powerful or has a different tool than they used to have before, something like that. And now, because they can't use their same skill set, they must rise to the occasion, right? They have to escalate. They have to increase their own tool set or do additional training. Like for those who remember Rocky, this is Rocky, the movie about the boxer. This is where Rocky's running up the stairs in the Philadelphia Art Museum. He's doing all the training, all the sort of 1980s montages that were going on back in that sort of style. But it was like, that's where it was, right? That's the hero's escalation, where they're growing their skills, they're working out, they're making it happen. And that's the escalation part. Then there's the exit. The exit is good. Now we're gonna have the final battle between the villain and between the hero, right? So the villain with his tools, the hero with these new improved tools. Of course, they're gonna win, because what kind of story would that be? So then they win with a final battle. And what I thought was really interesting is he said, you never just stop there. And I think as salespeople, right, when you're writing the sales letter or you're writing a VSL, when you think in a sales perspective, you're like, hey, here's the villain. The villain is, you can't write copy and you can't convert anything. And the situation is, you now need to realize that unless you improve your skills, you're never going to get any better at copy, which means you're never going to be better at conversions. And so we've got this tool that you can purchase, right? So the final battle is with this tool, with this sales letter template, right, that we have, we're going to help you to improve conversions. And you have this sort of final battle. And then people stop there. And the problem is, and this is what I thought, this is what the biggest takeaway of this particular situation, the challenge was, if you don't demonstrate what the life after looks like, then there's this feeling of incompleteness, right? And if you've ever watched a movie, and I have, and I wish I could tell you a name right now, I can't, but I've had that feeling where you watch a movie and it just ends and it feels like it ends too quickly. Like it's like, yay, we won, end, right? And they don't, it's not like a yay, we won, and then here's the, 10 years later, or here's what happens a couple weeks later. It's something that sort of says, here's what life looks like now that the battle is over and the hero has won. So you need to explain that. You need to finish it off with that. So make sure you have a little bit of a life after when you do these 3-act stories. So I thought that was a really good takeaway. All right, so let's go ahead and continue forth. So this was, again, all in day one. The final breakout session was a traffic roundtable that I joined, which is, or that I was watching, where, basically they have these traffic experts on there and they're talking about, here's what we use to build traffic to our site, right? So we went from a couple of them. There's a bunch of different ones, and some of them were kind of the same. So I didn't, things I've heard before, things that are somewhat standard. But there were a couple that I thought were interesting, and I wanted to share them with you, which was one called YouTube Charms. And the way that they did this is they basically said that you create a ton of YouTube videos, and these are very, very short videos. They're a couple minutes in length, that's it. And they focus on one skill or one technique or one tip, and that's it. And you create a whole bunch of these, and they say basically, they call it the charms because it's like a charm bracelet. So if you ever see a charm bracelet, it's a regular bracelet, and then you have all these little charms that people buy and purchase to go around it to sort of customize them, and that's what it's like. So you have all these different charm videos out there, right? All these little tiny topical videos. They all have call to actions. They all have CTA, maybe the last 20 seconds or so that says, hey, subscribe to the channel, or, go here to get our PDF, or whatever it is. But there's a lot of them, and they all are hyper-focused on particular things that your market needs. So I thought that was really cool. So one tip or one technique that the video targets, and that's all it does. But it does it really, really well, and it's hyper-focused, and so people watch it, they like it, they subscribe to your channel, they watch the other videos, which generates traffic. So that was a huge thing. I thought was kind of a cool way to do it. And the other one was the bonus retargeting loop, which essentially was, a lot of people use retargeting wrong. And what this gentleman was talking about is he said, people typically will say, okay, you're going to go to my sales page, and let's say you don't fill out the cart. Well, I can retarget that on Facebook, right? So I can say, okay, well, go show this ad to people who saw my sales page but did not complete the cart. Well, that's all well and good, but if I'm sending them back to the same sales page, which is what a lot of people do, well, okay, even if you're using a different ad to do it, you're sending them back to the same sales page, which they've already saw and they already said no to once for some reason. So what are the odds you're going to get them again? Now, you will get some. Don't get me wrong, that will work. But one thing that will make it work better is if you offer bonuses. And so he said, basically, it's the same bonuses, and you've noticed this when you've ever purchased anything online, where they've got the video that plays, and then the button pops, and then there's like all the different bonuses and everything that come with it, right? But you don't know about those right away. So maybe somebody was watching your VSL, and after 10 minutes, they never saw the button pops, so they just skipped it, they went through. So you can send them back to the sales page, only this time the button's already popped and you've got bonuses listed. Or maybe it's just the video with a couple of bonuses that are included with it, but it somehow looks different and offers more, even if it's the same stuff that you offered anyway, right? But it's just that they never got to that part. So you just sort of bring it further into the loop. So basically identical sales page, except that it offers the bonuses that were coming up, or the button's already popped, or there's something that's different about it, and that will help you to get better response on your traffic. So retarget it and then offer that bonus loop, which I thought was a kind of cool takeaway. Okay, so let's talk about day 2. This was more funnels. Okay, so everybody was talking about funnels on day number 2. So what ended up happening is we come through here and we talk about starting at the end. These are the 3 big ahas they had about funnels. When I say they, this is digital marketer now, right? So their team is up there saying, here's what we've learned about funnels and what we wish we knew way back when. Very first thing was start at the end, which means you started like your ultimate product of the funnel, whatever that high-end product is, and then you work your way down. That's kind of their first little insight. So you don't start with the lead, the opt-in, and then what they call their lead capture, and you don't start with there and then try to build out the funnel as you go through it. You start with building out the top product, whatever that main core offer is going to be, and then you work your way down until you finally have your lead capture, and then you send traffic to it. That way, you're starting, and ideally you can make profit right away. The second thing they talked about was overcoming self-doubt. So self-doubt is the #1 objection people will have. They will read your stuff, will listen to your offer, watch your VSLs, and they go, yeah, but not me. I understand how you could do it. I understand how these people could do it, but it's not me. I can't do that for whatever reason. And there was this overcoming of self-doubt. So the way to overcome that, right, or this overwhelming self-doubt. So the way to overcome the self-doubt that somebody has when they're looking or considering your offer is to make it very, very simple and lots of small steps where they can say, okay, I can see that. Okay, yeah, I get that. Okay, yeah. And you have these little tiny nods as they go through the message. Like, yes, this makes sense. Yes, this makes sense. I can see that. And eventually through all these little baby steps through your sales process, eventually they kind of go like, okay, well, yeah, I can see how I could do this now, right? Because you've said yes to all these other things that all make sense, that all make logical sense. Then finally, it was quantity, not profit. So their goal over at Digital Marketer is to acquire a customer, not necessarily to profit on the first round or first interaction with that customer, okay, which is typically your first funnel that they would go through. So now if they profit, it's great, but that's not their goal. Their goal is to get a customer. So they're all about quantity and scaling out as fast as possible, because the more customers they have, the more they can go back to this group of individuals who have voted with their dollars and said, yes, we're interested in your information, right? They go back to those people and then they can say, okay, now that we've got these people, we can go back and offer them more stuff, right? And then now you're a profit because you've already acquired the customer, you've paid to acquire the customer. So their funnels are really designed for that. Which means they can spend a lot more money per lead if they wanted to, because they're not so concerned about profits. So that was one thing that I thought was an interesting takeaway, and the three big ahas that they had. All right, so again, continuing on with day 2, there's a breakout session. Now this was hosted by John Benson. He did his on how to close VSLs. It was actually a last minute topic. He was going to do upsell VSLs, but he decided to do that as a webinar later. So he talked about how to close VSLs. And John Benson is known as the guy who does VSLs. He's the creator of the VSL, right? The godfather of the VSL. And he's got lots of courses and he's got programs that help you create them and everything else. So he's very detailed on these, but essentially, right, sort of this general overview, what I got from it is you want to use modalities, which is the see, hear, feel. You know, it's a little what they call neurolinguistic programming, or NLP, if you've heard of that. But some people are visual people, some people are auditory, so they hear things in their head. Some people feel their way through life, right? And so you want to use all these different terms in the VSLs or in your sales messages so that it's appealing to somebody, no matter which group they're in. He also talked about escalating the problem, which is talked about a lot, right? Twisting the knife, rubbing salt into the wound, making sure that they understand just how bad their situation is or could be, you know, something like that. In a book called Spin Selling, it's called implication questions. So it's things like, okay, yeah, I don't know how to copyright, but, you know, so what? At least the offer's converting decently. Yeah, okay, well, if you don't know how to copyright, then, you know, how can you make it convert better? Right? And if it doesn't convert better, how can you sell higher upsells? If you can't sell higher upsells, how do you have money to invest in a team? And if you can't build your team, how can you scale your business? And if you can't scale your business, how can you ultimately sell that business, which is what you say you want to do so that you can go live on a beach, right? That's escalating the problem. The other thing you talked about was using loops. So the way that you use loops, you open a loop and you close a loop, and all that really is, it's kind of a psychological term, but all it really is when you see stuff or when you hear stuff, when people say, okay, there is this thing about, well, for example, we had this whole winter storm recently. So in the Northeast, there's a big giant winter storm and polar vortex and everything else, which reminds me, there's actually an interesting snow story I got to tell you, but I'll get to that in just a second. Now, what I just did there was open up a loop. Okay, so it's kind of like, oh, interesting story about snow, right? So open loop. Now your brain wants to complete that story. Okay, and then if I never complete that story, there's a feeling of incompleteness, of uncertainty, of anxiety. And so what happens is my brain is paying attention to see when that story is closed to figure out what it needs to do, because it doesn't have enough information to do anything. Meanwhile, while I'm talking about other things, ideally you're paying attention, right, to the things that are going on. Truth be told, there is no snow story that I have. So that's the official close of that loop. It was just as an example, of course, but the loops are interesting. So you can say, okay, well, here's, you know, and you watch these, just watch on VSLs. People do it all the time. So here are the you know, 2 things to never do if you want to be a successful copywriter. The first is this, and I'm going to talk in more detail in just a few minutes on that. But first, let's talk about blah, 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 blah. And you see things like that all the time. That's them opening a loop, and then later in the VSL, they close the loop. And you do that a lot because it subconsciously engages the viewer into your message. So that was something that I thought was pretty interesting on the VSLs. As we move into day 3, and then we'll wrap up here in just a few minutes, they talked about how to scale. So this is back in the keynotes, and they did, it was about a half a day. These first 2 days were were long days. They were, 8 in the morning until 7 at night, long days. Day 3 was like 8 in the morning or 8:30 in the morning when they finally got rolling until about 4-ish, somewhere around there. So this one of the biggest keynotes I got from takeaways was the how to scale. And there was 4 different parts they talked about. One is having a vision or a mission. Ryan Dice had actually mentioned himself that, he was the first one to say, okay, well, that's just like when we're a big giant corporation and we have the time and flexibility to be able to do that, then awesome, we'll do that. Like when we have plenty of money and we've got structure and, we can afford the luxury of a vision or mission, then we'll spend time doing that. But right now, there's no point to it. And then he said, that was the one thing he would go back and change, right? So now that he's gone through this process of why do we do what we do, the vision and mission was incredibly important. That's something we have to work on, to be honest. So we want to, train people and help them build their businesses. But short of that, we don't really have a specific, vision or mission. Whereas digital marketer has the, we want to double the business of 10,000 businesses in the next 5 years. They have a very specific vision and mission. So he said, with that, it helps them to make their decisions, which makes sense. So that's something we're going to look at here at Seriously Simple Marketing. The other thing is planning and forecasting. So they went through this whole planning model of where they said, okay, here's where we are in January, here's where we want to be in December, here are the sort of the seasonal components of like maybe traffic, like in their case, traffic goes down in the summer just because people are taking vacations and not really checked into creating a new business, and everybody gears back up in September to create their businesses or find a new job or whatever it is. And so they've sort of built their plan and would say, okay, we need to have X amount of emails or X amount of dollars generated, and here's how we're going to do that, and come up with a plan on how to do that. So planning and forecasting was important. Building a team was important. That's something that we have here as well. We're now to 6 people total, which is great. So all great members, and we look forward to continue to expand our team, because the more that we do that, the faster we can grow. And then getting access to capital, which was basically investment dollars. Lots of ways to do that nowadays, especially if you have invoices that people consistently pay, because then people will loan you money based on those if you need to expand. And this is especially in terms of like inventory and things like that. In our case, we're digital, we don't really require that, but some companies do. So if yours does, then having access to ready capital so you can quickly expand, so you can quickly make a move, so that you can quickly hire, if you get that big order, stuff like that is important. So those are the 4 things that are required to scale a business. And according to Digital Marketer, they have all intentions right now are that they're going to hit $100 million. I believe at the end of this year is what they were aiming for. So at the end of this year to hit $100 million in revenue through all their different businesses, which is phenomenal. So now the other thing I want to mention was this ssm.tips/TC notes. Now these are not my notes. Okay, I'm gonna show you what these are. Then, and full disclosure, this is one of those times where we have an affiliate link, but it will take you to this page, right? And I'm gonna scroll. I'll let you scroll kind of on your own terms. But again, ssm.tips/TC notes will get you here. And what this is a gentleman named Tim Castleman who takes a ton of notes. He's got a whole team that goes through there, and they take notes, on everything. So they take notes on all the different breakout sessions, which again, because they're happening all at the same time, you can't attend them all, right? You just have to pick and choose what you want, which I did, but I missed ones that I would have wanted, right? So he goes through and he takes notes on everything. And it's not like 20 pages of notes. There's about 100 pages on the last one that I bought for last year. And I buy these every year. So, and I bought them for this year as well. So it's $27. It is super cheap. With the $27, you actually get last year's notes and the notes before that. So it's something worth taking a look at. And again, these are like 100 pages. They're all in a pretty decent PDF layout. So, and they will be ready in March. So the next couple of weeks, I think, is when he's ready to have those done. But definitely take advantage of this if you didn't attend. And again, even if you did attend, I'd still take advantage of it. Because everybody last year, the way I found out about it is everybody last year was talking about them. Like, oh, where's the guy with the notes? Where's the guy with the notes? And then I finally found them and bought it. And this year, it's like a no-brainer. For $27, it's worth it. So again, we are an affiliate, full disclosure. But even if you don't want to use our affiliate link, that's fine. I don't care. Like, it's $27. So get them, because it's worth it to have those there as well. So again, traffic and conversion notes. And again, not my notes, but they're better, to be honest. All right. So the question at the end of the day is, should you attend this thing, right? So like if you didn't make it and you were kind of wondering like, is it worth the money? Short answer is yes, it absolutely is. And there's for two reasons. So traffic and conversion, it's great for beginners. So if you're a beginner, you will absolutely get ideas. You will get some structure. You will kind of get a general layout of the land, the digital marketing arena that you're now in. But if you're experienced, right? So I'm kind of experienced. I've been through this a bunch of times. And I'll give you an example. So if you're a beginner and you're starting out with sales funnels, they talk a lot about like sales funnels and what they are and how they work, right? Well, as an experienced person, you're kind of like, yeah, okay, I get it. I don't need to hear this. So in that case, you're there for networking opportunities, right? And that's what we were there for. So we met a lot of potential clients, had some really good conversations. I actually met existing clients because we're virtual, so we don't get a chance to see our clients face to face all the time. So this is a really good opportunity to see all of them and hang out with them face to face. But again, it's so if beginner, you're going to learn some stuff. And don't get us wrong, like we're more experienced than the average person, but we're always looking for ideas. So this is why we attended the breakout session, so that we can see and learn. And you never know what you're going to grab. I just need one idea. That's it. I get, the same thing we talked about in the beginning of these DMTWs, get one idea. It's the same thing I do at TNC. If I get one idea, the thing's paid for. So I don't have to worry about it. But even if I didn't get the idea, the networking opportunities alone pay for them. Right. So, and it really is, it's like every year it becomes this bigger and bigger family reunion, and you get to reestablish connections and meet new people and, hook into everybody else's network, and they can hook into your network, and it just works out really, really well. So I would absolutely recommend that you attend TNC, even if you've been before, or even if, for us, it's like a staple. We're always going to go. As I continue to hire, I'm going to bring out people in our team to it, because I think it's good for them to go. It's just that conference, like every year, I definitely will go. So that's that. So what was your one idea? Was it maybe to attend TNC next year? Hopefully I will see you out there. Was it the tips that we gave you on the copywriting? Was it the notes, just the ability, the fact that even know that these notes were out there? Because for years I didn't know they were out there, and I just found out last year. So I figured that's always a good thing to pass on. Whatever it was, action brings results. So if you've learned something and you want to practice something, take what you've learned and Google it would probably be the best thing to do, because I didn't give a ton of details on how to do everything, but at least hopefully I made you dangerous enough to know that you need to learn, Perry Belcher's, sales letter template, and then go to sign up for his Twitter or follow him on Twitter, just so you can grab that link, or at least just go to twitter.com/Perry Belcher. I think you can just see it all there without following him. But you can see that stuff and learn and practice. So at the end of the day, again, it's action brings results. Now, if you, again, are listening to this on a podcast or pre-recorded on YouTube or something, just go to seriouslysimplemarketing.com. We do invite you to join our notification list so you can be a part of the DMTW Insider Club, because we're about to get to Q&As here, and that's something we only do for those who are insiders and joining us live, or who wish, of course, just to have that complete recording. And either way, and if you can't join us live, you can still ask questions, and then you get a complete recording with the Q&A sent to you as well, because you're an insider. So again, completely free to join, and you'll see that over at seriouslysimplemarketing.com. That does it. Thank you again for joining us for Digital Marketing This Week. It's episode 35, the Traffic and Conversion 2015 recap. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you on the next episode.